People who lead without a title usually have one thing in common: habits that scream leader, even when their role doesn't. You don't need a nameplate or fancy title to show up like a leader. It starts with consistent habits. Daily learning, that's how they stay sharp and relevant. Clear communication, that builds trust. Follow up and follow through, that's reliability people can count on. Emotional control under pressure, that's real strength. And the big one, advocating for others. Quiet leaders lift people up, not just themselves. If you're doing these things, you're already leading. The title may come later, or not. But the impact, that starts now. Let's break each one down. People who lead without a title usually have one thing in common: habits that scream leader, even when their role isn't. One of the most powerful of those habits: daily learning. It's not flashy, it doesn't show up in job descriptions, but it quietly separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Think about it, leaders without titles aren't waiting to be told what to learn. They're seeking out new knowledge every single day. A podcast on communication, a book on decision making, 10 minutes reflecting on a tough situation. They're feeding their minds and expanding their thinking, consistently. They don't learn for the applause. They do it because they know growth is their responsibility. And when challenges show up, they're ready. They've seen patterns, read solutions, and thought deeply about what works. That kind of mindset, curious, humble, hungry, it builds quiet confidence. People begin to notice. They come to you with questions. They trust your insight. That's influence. That's leadership, without waiting for permission. So if you're serious about leading from where you are, start with this simple question: what did I learn today? Because every day you learn, you lead, whether your title says it or not. People who lead without a title usually have one thing in common: habits that scream leader, even when their role doesn't. And one of the loudest of those habits: clear communication. It's not just about talking, it's about connecting, guiding, and creating clarity where there's confusion. When you speak clearly, you lead clearly. No jargon, no guesswork. You choose your words with purpose. You listen to understand, not just to reply. Leaders without titles don't use big voices. They use the right words, at the right time, for the right reasons. They give direction when things feel scattered. They check for understanding instead of assuming. And they speak up, even when it's uncomfortable, because clarity matters more than comfort. This kind of communication earns respect. It builds trust. And when people trust what you say, they follow your lead, even if you're not in charge. Want to lead without a title? Start by sharpening your words. Be clear, be concise, be real, because people don't follow noise. They follow clarity. People who lead without a title usually have one thing in common: habits that scream leader, even when their role doesn't. And one of those habits that earns instant respect: follow up and follow through. It's simple, but rare. And that's exactly why it stands out. Leaders without titles don't just talk a good game, they back it up. If they say they'll check in, they do. If they promise a next step, they deliver. Their word becomes their brand. And when people know they can count on you, even without a title, they start to see you as someone dependable, someone who gets things done. That builds influence faster than any job title ever could. Follow-up shows people you're paying attention. Follow-through proves you're serious. That combination, it earns trust, and it multiplies your impact over time. This habit says, I care, not just about the task, but about the people and the outcome. And that mindset shifts everything. You don't need authority to be consistent. You just need discipline. Follow up, follow through, repeat. Because reliability is leadership, and people are always watching. People who lead without a title usually have one thing in common: habits that scream leader, even when their role isn't. One of the strongest habits: emotional control, especially under pressure. Because anyone can stay calm when it's easy. Real leadership shows up when things get hard. When chaos hits, deadlines, conflict, unexpected change, most people react. But leaders without titles respond. They breathe, they think, they don't let emotions take the wheel. This doesn't mean they're emotionless. It means they've trained themselves to pause, process, and act with purpose, not panic. Emotional control builds stability. When people see you keep your cool, they feel safer. They lean on you, and suddenly, you become the person others look to, not because of your title, but because of your presence. And here's the truth: emotional control is a skill. You build it through reflection, awareness, and practice. And once you do, it becomes one of your greatest leadership advantages. Want to lead in high-pressure moments? Don't just raise your voice, raise your control. Because calm is contagious, and in a storm, people follow steady hands. People who lead without a title usually have one thing in common: habits that scream leader, even when their role isn't. One of the most powerful: they advocate for others. Because true leadership isn't about spotlighting yourself, it's about lifting others up. Leaders without titles know this. If you want influence, start by using your voice to support the people around you. That means recognizing effort, giving credit, speaking up when someone's being overlooked, and creating space for others to grow. They ask, who needs a chance? They say, let me introduce you. They use their influence, big or small, to open doors for others. When you advocate, people remember, not because you made it about you, but because you made them feel seen, heard, and valued. That builds deep trust. And here's the secret: when you push others forward, your own leadership gets noticed, without you having to chase a title. If you're serious about leading from where you are, don't just speak for yourself, speak up for others. Because leadership is never just about rising, it's about lifting. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need permission to step up. Because people who lead without a title usually have one thing in common: habits that scream leader, even when their role isn't. Let's recap the 5 habits that define true leadership. Daily learning, they grow on purpose. Every day, books, podcasts, reflections, anything that sharpens the mind and deepens perspective. Clear communication, they don't talk just to talk. They listen well and speak with intention. Their words move people, not confuse them. Follow up and follow through. What they say, they do. No need to chase them down. Their reliability becomes their influence. Emotional control under pressure, they stay steady when others spiral. Calm, thoughtful, present. That emotional discipline earns serious trust. Advocating for others, they lift people up. They share the credit, open doors, and use their voice to help others grow. These habits don't require a job title, a promotion, or a fancy nameplate. They just require intentional choices, every single day. So if you're wondering where to start as a leader, start with your habits. Because leadership isn't a position, it's a practice. And when you lead like this, the title doesn't define you. Your impact does. Like, share, subscribe.